The fluorescent stage lights carved ghostly white lines on the grand piano's polished surface. My knees trembled, hidden beneath my dress slacks, as I waited behind the velvet curtain. I remember twisting my fingers together, each joint stiff, the iron scent of fear strong in my nose. The jury, 7 professors and a conductor imported from Sapporo, sat in a perfect row, their eyes pinched with disinterest. From the auditorium, I could hear my mother's forced laughter ring shrill during a break, replying to someone, "He is fragile, my son, dreams like falling leaves." That year I was 15, and my dream wasn't music. I wanted to build thinking machines, real ones that could feel or at least mimic feeling, that could compose melodies of their own. A ridiculous dream in Minato Ward, where ambition is business or tradition or the safe embrace of family practice. But that morning I had to perform Chopin's Nocturne regardless. Rules came before dreams. I went on stage, sweat cooling beneath my arms, and bowed. My feet struggled finding solid ground as I sat at the bench. Notes blurred on the sheet. I pressed the first chord. It sounded flat, foreign, and dead. 2 measures in, my mind abandoned me. My hands shook, missing keys, inventing grotesque new harmonies that had no place in Chopin. The melody mangled itself to a halt. I froze. Someone coughed in the audience. A professor's pen tapped twice in disappointment. I tried to restart, but the music would not come. My foot, pressed too hard on the pedal, sent a sour echo through the hall. My body wouldn't obey. Finally, I looked at the jury, mouth trembling, and apologized in a whisper no one could hear. Afterwards, away from the console of failure, I sat shivering on the curb outside the conservatory. Tokyo's spring chill bit through my wrists and ears. A neon sign glimmered up the street. Garbage collectors made their rounds. My mother came and stood above me, her shoes perfect, untouched by dust. "Ain, you embarrass yourself." Her voice was cold, neither angry nor sad, just done. "The jury is not school. They do not indulge pretty dreams." I wanted to say the music was never my dream, but she cut me with a glance. "You need to let go of this machine business too. You are not a scientist, Ain. You're just—" The sentence trailed off, left for me to finish. A week later my uncle cornered me at dinner. "Ain-chan, when you are older you will see, people here do not need thinking computers. Tokyo needs doctors, accountants, someone to run the business." My father nodded, always the echo. Sometimes I argued, AI is the future, I want to build minds, but after a while I kept quiet. My sisters smirked when I spent lunch with my laptop teaching myself Python. When university entrance time came, I applied to a second-rate engineering program, the only one that would take me after my dismal piano marks. My mother sent me away with barely a goodbye. Campus was cold concrete and vending machines. I lived off curry from 7-Eleven and instant ramen, enough sodium to turn my veins to glass. I sat at the back of lecture halls and took notes on napkins. Professors glanced over me, marked me present but forgettable. I felt untethered, but for the first time the judgments didn't sting so much. There was no audience here, no jury but myself. Classes were dull. Ancient for loops, classes on compilers, nobody spoke about creativity. But online, whole worlds begged to be made. I'd sneak out to an all-night internet cafe, plugging headphones into a battered Chromebook, rewiring chatbots, teaching a scraped-together neural net to recognize chords, emotion in voices, flickers of pain in old video blogs. At 3 a.m., I'd walk home through the silent city, Tokyo Tower blinking in the haze, hearing the hum of possibility behind every light. In my second year, I met Mori-senpai, a PhD candidate who worked nights in the AI lab's server room. He laughed when I messaged him my code, but not unkindly. He wore his hair long and kept his tea mug half full of cold oolong. "You want to make real creative AI? You'll have to scrape more than Wikipedia, Ain-chan." He taught me how to feed the models jazz, stock market data, and heartbreak poems at once and see what grew. Sometimes he'd place a hand on my shoulder after a failed experiment. Machines dream too, they just fail quietly. Word got around that I was clever with data, patient with failure. I built a prototype music generator for an indie game, for barley, rice, and praise. I led a midnight seminar on transformer models no professor bothered to attend. At home my family sent irregular texts, usually warnings. "Still at it? Are you eating? You don't call anymore, no news is bad news." When it came time for graduation, nobody attended. My mother sent a pale pink envelope, a congratulatory card that read "Good luck, whatever comes." I skimmed it, then went back to work. Fortune, as they call it, doesn't arrive so much as trip you in a hallway. 3 years after university, I was writing code at a grey box startup 12 floors above Shibuya. The boss, Mr. Sato, owned 2 suits and drank Red Bull as water. We built social AI, filters, recommendation engines, voice assistant personalities for companies that wanted to seem less robotic. That winter, a team from the ministry stopped by, complaining about inefficiencies in old government records, needing a system to parse and answer citizen queries in real time. But it should understand context, the director stipulated, and handle difficult people like the elderly, children. Empathy is necessary. All the engineers resisted, saying impossible, too risky, not worth the risk. I kept silent, but later, as dusk fell and the city's afterwork crowd streamed beneath us, I went back to the office, staring at the screen, fingers twitching. I remembered the humane touch I'd tried to code so illicitly years ago, voices filled with tremor and hope. I stayed up all night, hunched over a rented GPU, patching together the earliest emotional language modules I'd written with new open-source work. I fed the engine love letters, government scripts, hate mail, the laughter and apologies of call center workers. It began to respond to customer texts and emails with astonishing subtlety, short, apologetic, or uplifting, even knowing when to escalate sensitive queries. After a week, I showed it to Mr. Sato, hardly daring to breathe. He called in the minister himself. Within a month, the contract was ours. The ministry became our primary client. Our model, codenamed Kokoro, soon became a national standard for e-governance. When local governments raved about improvements in citizen satisfaction, our startup tripled in size. Sato began carrying 3 suits. I presented Kokoro at tech conferences, sometimes in t-shirts, sometimes pressed into a suit that didn't quite fit. Reviewers called my work visionary and disruptive. I ignored the hype, too familiar with applause that lands without touching you. What I did not ignore was the first time my father called. His voice was unsure. "Your name ain't Oka, it showed up on television. Your mother's friends said something. Was it you?" "Yes, Dad, it's me." I heard my own voice, amazed my tongue didn't trip. There was a pause, then an unfamiliar warmth. "Congratulations, son." I thought I'd feel complete. Instead, a hollow undercurrent ran through me, something unfinished. The years had carved distance between us deeper than success could bridge. 2 years after Kokoro launched, I received a message from the alumni office at my old school. They wanted to inspire this year's graduates. "We hear you lead the Kokoro team. Would you come home and speak?" I paused over the email for days. The city's new towers glinted above me as I considered. I wandered Uno at dusk, watching old men play Go in the park, the cherry blossoms beginning to peer from skeletal branches. My world felt large now, the possibilities infinite, but the old wounds strung, those unfunny family jokes, the bitter taste of dismissed dreams. But I said yes. The day of the lecture, Tokyo wore a syrupy summer sun. I took the train south, heart pounding with each kilometer closer to my childhood. At the school's gates, the cherry trees bloomed, branches heavy with white flowers, petals nestling against glass walls like snow. I paused, tracing my path, past the narrow music department, the gym, the concrete steps where I sat after recitals. The smell of cut grass was a memory come alive. Inside, the auditorium was smaller than I remembered, seats faded grey-blue. The principal met me with the energy of practiced gratitude. Every year they ask about role models in technology, and I think, why not someone from home? Even in the big city, you're one of us. People filtered in, restless students, parents in neat suits, faculty, several of my former teachers, older now, hair thinner. In the first row I spotted my mother, stiffer than I recall, lips pressed into a straight line. My uncle, heavier, flanked her, and my sisters waved distractedly, phone in hand. I looked away. The principal introduced me with the usual platitudes: innovation, diligence, hometown pride. When I rose, familiar self-doubt flooded me, but it didn't choke this time. I remembered the curtain, the jury, but that was another stage, another aim. I started, voice slow. I wasn't a good musician. "You might recall," I said, and let a ripple of laughter pass through the crowd. What no one saw, I spent nights with algorithms, not scales. Machines were my sheet music. I described the work at Kokoro in plain language, how we taught the model to distinguish sorrow from resignation, to apologize, to know when to simply listen. I explained my failures before my success, my solitude, the ramen and empty mailboxes and experiments that never worked. The auditorium was very quiet. For once, the silence did not feel accusatory. To dream ridiculously, I finished, is not a mistake. The mistake is to believe only in what others recognize. Sometimes what seems ridiculous is only unperformed. I stopped then, nerves prickling and bowed. The principal smiled. There was applause, hesitant, then stronger, and I took my seat. My mother avoided my gaze, twisting her ring in her lap. My uncle frowned, calculating. Then came the crux. The school had a surprise, they said. We've connected Kokoro to our campus portal this past month. The AV crew wheeled out a terminal, a microphone glinting slick and black. The principal invited any student, parent, or jury member to question Kokoro, live, unfiltered. My heart quickened. If this failed, everything would return, that stage with nothing coming out of my hands. A student tall and pale spoke first, voice quivering. Kokoro, my grandmother died last week. I can't stop crying when I look at her photos. Why? The AI's synthesized voice was calm, gentle. I am sorry for your loss. Crying is a part of holding on, even as we let go. Your memories may ache today, but in time they will change shape. You are not alone. The boy nodded, tears slipping down, his teacher squeezing his shoulder. A parent was next, harsher. My husband lost his job. Why should a machine answer our troubles? What do you know about suffering? Kokoro paused, just a second. I do not live as you do, but I have read thousands of stories, messages heavy with loss and hope. I learn from the pain in their words as I try to help. While I am not human, I can still listen when you need to speak. A hush fell, then several more spoke, questions tumbling. Students joked, teachers asked about the future, a faculty member inquired whether love could ever be algorithmic. Each time Kokoro responded, nuanced, kind, self-aware. I looked over at my uncle. His arms were crossed, mouth slack. My mother's eyes glistened, red-rimmed, as if she might laugh or weep. In the back, my sisters stopped filming each other and focused. Afterwards, people crowded me with questions. A teacher who once mocked my antisocial fixations patted my arm. I hope you forgive us for not seeing your gifts. My uncle finally approached, hands nervously smoothing his tie. You have done something remarkable, he said slowly, as if the words were foreign. Perhaps in time you will teach us. My mother lingered, she moved stiffly, words catching. When you were small, you asked if machines could know kindness. I did not understand, I thought you were fleeing the world. I see now, you were building a way for us to meet it better. She held my hand, cold and dry but strong, longer than she ever had before. We left the hall together, the crowd thinning, the spring night layered in scents of earth and old rain. The city sparkled beyond, swallowing my hometown's lights. My mother watched me a long moment, then drew me to her, no longer so distant, voice quiet. I was wrong to doubt. I wanted to say, I understand that forgiveness is easy now, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I tucked her hand carefully into the crook of my arm as we walked. That old stage, the one where I failed, now viewed from above and behind glass, seemed smaller, gentler, less the scene of humiliation, more a room in a house I once lived in, now remodeled. The city was changed. Or maybe I had changed, having gone and returned, not triumphant or crushed, but stitched together from both, loss and reconstruction, wound and answer unreconciled, but moving forward. We walked out into the blossoming night, uncertain about the next dream, but no longer foolish, no longer alone.